This is The Big Time. It's a British show from the 11th of June, 1980. This is a great idea, The Big Time. It just follows a member of the public who is placed in the limelight as a result of them saying, I would like to try my hand at something.
Yeah.
And they would just film the documentary about how they got on. This was one where an amateur would get to become a pro wrestler. That, of course, is going to be answered by not Rollerball Rocco, who we see as it starts, and not Big Daddy, not the world lightweight champion Johnny Saint. We are going to meet a man who's 27. He's a school teacher from Rawnsley in Lancashire. And for Keith Rawlinson, this is The Big Time. I mean, whoa.
You are a fan of Wrestle Me and you're a fan of Yorkshire Ripper mentions.
It is.
This is the show for you.
This is Wrestling with Shadows. The 3-day week years. It's absolutely thrilling.
Did men of that vintage in that year, that decade, in England just sound like they've got such menace behind their eyes?
Yeah.
The way they talk about art is just so unbelievably scary.
Yes. Why is it?
Is wrestling real, Mark? I think this is the first time I've thought that wrestling is real.
Do you know what's really interesting about this documentary? I don't think anyone comes out of it particularly badly.
Right, yeah.
You've got a slightly deluded young teacher who is taken advantage of in one way or another. I don't even think it's a case of he's really taken advantage of. I think there's a screw job going on in there as well.
Yes.
You've also got that thing where British wrestling comes out of it. They have managed to make it clear that it's real to them. And also, when you watch it, you go, it is fucking real. Because when you get your John Naylors and your Tally Ho Kays and stuff, and Sid Cooper, there is no doubt that if these men wanted to do what they did in the ring genuinely to you, they
would
could.
do it, yeah.
So at what point is it fake? It's not fake. It's real. And what's really, really amazing about this is how good everyone in this is at that.
Yeah.
Even people that you've never really respected before. And I mean that as in you've never thought about before.
Yeah.
I do respect all British wrestlers. And I respect some Americans. There was a big deal made of this show because it actually made the cover of the Radio Times.
Oh.
The guy who took part in it is seen headlocking Big Daddy. The cover date of that 7th of June 1980. Loads of copies on eBay.
Oh,
for
yeah?
about £10. Yeah, it seems like a nice piece of Daddy-ana. So we get Keith Rawlinson, who is the guy who's answered the advert. He's a schoolmaster in Burnley, but he's always longed to be a professional wrestler. Now, The Big Time gives him the chance.
Mark, I want to turn fantasy into fact. They all talk like Ian Brady.
I've always been a wrestler in my mind. I know that's just fantasy, and I want to turn fantasy into fact.
What do you mean you've always been a wrestler in your mind?
Well, every time I see a wrestling match, I am one of the wrestlers.
Everyone's...
It's an awful thing to say. It's the
you
violence
and your
I
boys
like.
are doing such a bad job, Jack.
There you go. It's the violence I like. I just thought when I'm in the ring, that's going to... Oh, my God, what's wrong with you?
He's a church organist, which, when you were making this show, when you got the thing come back and they went, well, I'm a part-time school teacher and church organist, you're like, get this guy on television.
Get this guy in right now. Yeah.
He says, I like wrestling and the word of God. He says, this is amazing.
It's a very strange thing to have to combine.
I am meek, really, merciful. I'm hoping that once I get inside a wrestling ring, I'm hoping a bit of a change comes over me. It's got to, he says.
I am meek, really, and merciful. No, I think I'm hoping that once I get inside a wrestling ring, I'm hoping a bit of a change will come over me. It's got to. There'll be no room for mercy or meekness.
At some point, somebody has to explain kayfabe and explain that you don't have to go through with this.
I think they have... do you know what? Do you know what's really hard about this? I think they have let him in on it.
Yeah.
I think he's aware of it. And I actually think he does a really good job right from the start.
Protect the business.
Of protecting the business. So he says he trains kids in a wrestling club at the school that he works in. Funnily
Red
enough...
flags! Red motherfucking flags! We don't really have that wrestling kind of background, do we?
But I suppose if you're in Burnley and Lancashire, you've got a sense of, the Wigan Snake Pit Gym. There was a history of wrestling that didn't really exist sort of outside of that particular triangle of Britain. He says, I've always been a wrestler in my mind. That's just a fantasy, and I want to turn fantasy into fact. When you hear Like little people, like, I'm quite religious. I want to turn fantasy into fact. and I'm from Burnley. There's a part of it that you just go, it's another Yorkshire reference.
It's written down.
Just all
Absolutely
screams it.
chilling stuff.
Keith says whenever he sees wrestling, he literally thinks he's in the ring. Whenever I see a wrestling match, I am one of the wrestlers. When I sit there, I feel it for the wrestler. I feel it just as much as the wrestler does. So I am involved, and I have been a wrestler.
So confusing. It's just the way he's hard to talk. It's very softly spoken.
Yeah.
Man from the north.
And they ask him, they say, how much acting do you think there is in wrestling? And he says, just in fairness, he doesn't address it at all. He sort of says, no, it's going to be very hard. And, people do get hurt. And I was just like, oh, he's good. He doesn't sort of go, well, I think it's all a bit of panto. He's just like, it's a tough business. I'm going to really struggle. It was like perfect deflection. It was really good. We get Max Crabtree, who's the promoter.
I don't care what the doctor says. I need him there.
Yes.
Lovely stuff.
He's the referee and sort of front man of the joint booking committee. And he says he will promote Keith's match so long as he has a lot of bottle. It's a type of courage to be able to go in and dish out the treatment as well as take it. And wrong way round. He needs to be taking the treatment as well as dish it out.
To be able to get off the floor when somebody smacks you in the nose and your nose starts bleeding. Somebody's got you in an excruciating hold on the floor and you feel that your leg's going to drop off. And it's being able to fight out of it and get up and have a go.
Fight, get up and have a go. That's bottle, says Max. Keith then is put in the ring, and I mean, this is wonderful. So they're going to say, we're just going to test you out, bit of spragging. And he stands there and he goes, well, I've tried to think about it. He's not listening, is he? He says, which I love. They say, how do you think it's going to go? It's a bit hard, really. I'm going to try and get the fellow over and down on the mat. I'll twist his arm round, you see, and hopefully he'll have to bend himself over. And I shall come in from there, and my arm round his back, top of his shoulders, pull. With a bit of luck, he should go on the mat. He says, and I was just like, they would have been listening to this, wouldn't they? And they'd be going, cheeky fucking aper. Gonna make him. But, it's wonderful. He's given cyanide to Cooper.
Yeah,
and
good.
Cooper, the face that could curdle milk, he is wonderful. He just stands there and lets him go at it. And they sort of go, he's just going to be on defense. He's not going to, he won't attack you, he says. He's just going to take it. And again, it's that sudden thing where you just go, they're not like other men.
No.
Wrestlers, they're a different breed.
Men. They're awful.
He's like a big statue of a terrier, Sid Cooper. And, he does a point where he just has enough and he just sort of like does fling him and over he goes. Keith does a bit where he tries to sort of do a leap, like he's trying to grab him in a triangle, and he just lands on his back quite hard. And Max Crabtree goes, first lesson, Keith, don't try anything you can't do. Right? Sid then pulls him over at one point, bloodies his nose, takes him down. And as he breathes, Sid just strolls over and gives him a chop across the chest. Ow. And Max goes, all right, Keith, I want you to try a couple of drop kicks.
Just the hand, it's quite high.
Just want to see if you can drop kick his hand. And he holds it. Apart from anything else, the only other advice that he's been given in this is don't try anything you can't do.
Yeah.
And he's just like, do us a drop kick his hand.
And he's like, you've seen us do this.
This
Have a go at it.
Keith goes, I've never tried one. Is that the one where he goes, well, give it a go.
You've watched this enough.
You know a drop kick, if you've watched it, you know what it's all about. This is what wrestling's about.
I never tried one.
Well, go on, let's have a go. Get up. Come on, get up. Get on. Go on, Keith, have another go. Right, on your feet, up, lad.
What's so funny about this is a proper wrestler's, you've got your mark. And they have that thing of going, do your drop kick to get his hand. And actually what he's doing, of course, it's not about him kicking Sid's hand. It's about him falling on his back again and again and again and again from 4 feet up every time. And the more he jumps, the worse he's landing. Sid just has to move his hand away as well. Keep going up a little bit. And he can't get it. And it's just, nobody seems to see those beautiful little wrestler tricks. Yes. And I love watching it. I'm like, this is like carnival shit. I loved it. He has problems with his breathing, Keith, and he is sick over the side. And
Get it up, lad.
This is where all professional wrestlers begin. If they get away with only being sick the first time they get into the ring, it's not a bad start.
Turn round, face us. Let's have a look at it.
But this is what's so funny about this. What you're seeing here is not something that is necessarily put on for the cameras. It has been put on for the cameras, but if you tried to break into wrestling, this is exactly the sort of thing they do, only much, much harder.
Yeah.
You would get in there with your cyanide Sid, and your cyanide Sid would put you through your paces, and he would hurt you, and he wouldn't let you do anything, and he would just see if you were going to come back the next day. So there's a funny thing here about going, oh, they're treating him really shittily. And actually, they're not. They're treating him in the way that everyone who came into this business was treated. Keith's hair does get bigger and bigger as this goes on as well, which is funny.
It's probably still like the massive amounts of bruising and swelling in his body of just pushing it out.
It's bloody hard, says Keith. Max Crabtree says, this man's not starting at the beginning. He's starting 6 feet under. Just wonderful. So they give Keith a trainer and they give him Peter Tally-Ho-K. Tally-Ho-K, he had the Super K, not quite a gentleman, which is
nice.
magic. He had a sort of fox hunting gimmick that he used to do. They mention in this, Keith sort of goes, I'm 11 stone. And they're all, oh, fuck it. You know, it's worth saying, you look at him in this, and he has actually got the physique of a wrestler that you might get now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an unusual body. It's just that time they were like, but where's all the pork? You haven't been eating chops. Why are you eating enough chops?
The diet they put him on later on, where it's just like a bacon-heavy, milky diet.
Yeah.
And they say you're going to have to eat all the supplements, all the protein powders, you know, that really sort of like crap stuff you used to get in the 80s, Synatogen and stuff.
Yeah, just concrete powder.
And you will have to run 3 miles a day. It sounds full time, like not enough cardio for anyone to do. Like, but wrestlers back then, they didn't do any cardio.
And they're obsessed with, like, the key thing you need to be if you want to be a professional wrestler is you just have to once bench press 150 pounds.
Yes.
If you can do that, you're a professional wrestler. Oh man. What's really interesting here is they talk to Johnny Saint and
a chilling little.
Johnny Saint is
little
seen as being one of the nicer men in British wrestling because
Not here.
he was so technical and he was fun.
Yeah.
And he was sportsmanlike, and he was here. He's fucking chilling. Chilling. And they say to him, so Johnny, how would you train someone? And he says, break his heart. Plough him into the deck, as we call it. He says, scurf him.
Scurf
And they go,
him.
what does scurf him mean? He went, well, as I say, plough him in the deck.
Scurf. It's like, what does that mean? Don't worry about that.
A novice.
That's our word.
What's scurf?
Just plough him in the deck. You know, there are ways in wrestling that it appears that one wrestler's underneath and the other wrestler's on top, and it appears that nothing's happening. But the man that's underneath, if he's a novice like yourself, he can die 1,000 times in as many minutes. And this is what we call scurfing.
I mean, Jesus Christ, where did that come from? Johnny Saint saying, I would say as well, he says you can die 1,000 times in as many minutes. 1,000 minutes is a long time. I think, no, Johnny Saint's supposed to be one of the nicer guys.
Yeah.
And what he says is the most frightening thing I've ever heard. Absolutely
The way
terrifying.
he delivers it. It's just men delivering quite big Jake the Snake kind of like phrases.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it with any gusto. They're doing that with the cold, sort of quiet northern kind of like a little bit shy about, I'll put him in the ground.
Again, it's not a lie.
No.
They have genuinely been through all of that.
Yeah.
That whole thing about I felt like I was going to die 1,000 times in as many minutes. Johnny Saint has been through that because that's the way people used to be trained. So when they are out there effectively going, this is really frightening and you're going to shit yourself, they aren't, if you like, doing it for telly. They're doing it because that's what wrestling has always done. That's what's so fascinating about it. It's not a performance. It's performance, but it's also the reality. Oh, it's so fucking meta, the whole thing. It's amazing.
It's basically tough enough.
It is, but it's a tough enough where they're like, so shall I try and appeal to the crowd? And you just go, just concentrate on man in ring.
Concentrate on the blood in the man's veins.
You know what you'll need as a big part of your diet, though? Cheese as well. Cheese is there.
Rennet will power your soul.
Yeah, you meet his wife for the first time as well. She looks like Princess Diana, and she just says, I'd be happier if he didn't do it. So much of wrestling is women sitting on the sidelines just going, this is awful.
Just him coming through is 1 up, 2 down, after a night drink, and he's like, I think I'm going to become a wrestler, dear. And they're going, oh no.
You didn't post that thing back, did you? You didn't post. It's Esther Ranson, I'll be safe. My
keep me safe.
God. The thing I dread more than anything is the slam. Your wind goes, there's no way you can breathe after you've been slammed. I couldn't really get up the first time you did it. You're almost paralysed. He says one thing here, which is the first time that I was a bit like, okay, he's let something slip. He mentions that while he's being slammed, he says, all I'm thinking is feet down. You know, and you're like, okay. So that's the sort of bit that your trainer has said when you go feet down to take the, you know, impact. You can explain that away, and you could go, well, that's if a man's got you in a slam, what you want to do is you want to get your feet down first. That'll take away his attack, you know. And I was like, he's not let it go yet, but I was like, okay. So I'm seeing a little bit
of training. Yeah,
there's no way Tally Hoke, if he didn't want him to know anything about it, would have mentioned the phrase feet down. Why is Tally Hoke going to make it easier for him? So I was like, okay, so they've let him in on something. They've let him in a bit. The other bit that's really obvious that it's not on the level for Keith is that Keith talks about being posted, where you get thrown into the turnbuckle. And it's really funny, this whole documentary is like, is it entertainment? It certainly doesn't look real. There's a bit where they start showing Tally Ho's punches during a match, and they stop it. And then they play it in slow-mo, and the voiceover's going, does that look real? Does it? I don't think so. But there's a bit where they talk about posting. And posting, for some reason, this documentary is like...
Obsessed with how dangerous it is.
There is absolutely no way that can be faked. You know, they run it, they get thrown into the post, and they're like, well, that is genuine. You know, can't be faked. What's really interesting is he talks about posting in this little bit, Keith. He's come up with his own thing, which is so good, which is like, it's so dangerous posting. You could go either side, your legs go either side, you can fall out ring. The safest thing that you can do is you twist, and you have to take it on your back. You know, that's just the safest way of doing it. So I was actually like, do you know what? I've never heard anyone explain that before. So Keith's got to the point where he's like, I am going to give a legitimate reason for why, when you get thrown at the post, you turn around and take it on your back. And he's like, you know, that's you're just trying to protect yourself as much as you can. Yeah, it hurts, but it's not as bad as what could happen. And the program is like, that does check out. You sort of go, you're a bit of an asset to the business, actually, Keith. You're doing all right here. Max Crabtree then comes in and says, we're going to set you up with a real match. And you get the referee, Joe DeRazio, comes in, and he's asked, you know, is it real? If it's not real, he said, I wish someone had told me.
You know, I wish, you know, we've spent so much time in hospital, wrestlers. You know, I could give you a list, you know. They spend so much time in hospital and being injured and this broken and that broken that it would never happen. It's never going to happen to you. You are never going to get cauliflower ears sitting there, are you?
What's really
Cockneys
funny?
and Northerners. There's nobody in the middle.
No.
It's just Cockneys, Northerners.
You're either
that's
the
it.
most northern person in the world or the most southern.
Yeah.
And Joe DeRazio is great because they say, is it fixed? And he goes, he doesn't say no.
No.
Does he?
Yeah.
Well, if it is fixed, no one's told me. You know, it's just never a straight answer, and it's really good. He doesn't mention, they do say, what about the showmanship? And he sort of goes, well, no different from football, is it? He said, but what you will find in wrestling, you will never have someone who is so into the showmanship that they are willing to lose a match. He says, you know, yeah, they're much off, but they ain't going to let them cost them the match. And I was like, this is great. This is such good sort of, all of the people over the years who have had to address this with journalists, they've got a million different ways of doing it without ever going, no, it's not fixed.
And when you see like a big Van Vader or whoever like smashing shit out of a journalist, I go, I mean, just evade.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
evade.
Vader is no Joe DeRazio. We make that clear. Keith also, they say to him, you know, have you got any questions you want to ask about, you know, the game? And Keith goes, I want to know how you submit. Which is such a bad sign.
I want to know how to stop all of this right now.
Joe DeRazio's just like, well, I wouldn't fucking hang about, which I thought was an amazing sort of like, I was enjoying this so much. They are such entertaining people. He has a little sort of like match with Tally Ho, and he sort of says, I'm not panicking. He says, in a quiet way I am. And old Tally Ho gets Keith very quickly into a single leg Boston Crab, and he really locks it in with his arms, really. Keith won't submit. He wants to show guts, I think. He gets to his feet, and Tally Ho then gets him with the hold he dreads the most, the slam. There's a front face lock, a bit of hammer locking and stuff, and Tally Ho really is like, right, I'm doing his arm. And he puts that right up, and DeRazio, he sort of calls to the bell, he's submitted. DeRazio has to go in and move Keith's arm back. It's gone too far up. He hasn't got any control over it anymore. And so DeRazio has to pull it down again. And then you get a second one, and Tally Ho just swarms him, and he's straight back to that arm like a mad sort of Japanese submission specialist. Another horrible hammerlock.
He's been scuffed.
Oh, he has. As Johnny Saint said, Keith Keith is dying 1,000 deaths down there. They say. And he's saved by the bell. Tally-ho comes over and he's just like, you're all right, lad, you're all right. You're all right. You know what you've done. You know he's not all right. What you do notice about this is, even when you've got like someone like Tally-ho, who is a really well-respected heel and a good hand, you just realise just how tough every single one of these British wrestlers was. How dangerous and just really good at this. They're all like, it's just like you've got the greatest shoot fighters of all time and they're pretending to be cat weasels or huntsmen and stuff like that. And then, I mean, there are at least 50 of them who are as good or better than Tally-ho at this period. The most frightening group of men in the history of the world. Max Crabtree says Keith needs to make himself mentally hard. He said, you laid there and you let him twist it. And he gives him a 3 out of 10. They mentioned 2 million people go to see the wrestling every year for just joint promotions alone. And it's on TV as well. And the show does want to go into whether it's real. And they do sort of say, does Kay's arm really hurt? Or is that just to get the audience going? Watch Kay's punch. Was it a real punch? And I was like, Tally-ho has done more damage to British wrestling in this so far than Keith bloody Hayward has. He's done really well, Keith Rawlinson. They also sort of say, couldn't have Tally-ho seen this drop kick coming? Then they show the posting and they're like, well, fair enough, that's really real, which is so weird.
That involves a post.
Yeah. Keith says, I have no doubt that it's real, he says. But again, he just never says, yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
No, it's not real. He just goes, I have no doubt that it's real. I personally have no doubt that it's real. And he talks about how painful it is.
From his ringside seat, does Keith think it's all fixed?
Absolutely not. I've got the scars myself now to prove it, apart from the pain that I suffer just about every single day.
And what about Peter Kay? Does he get hurt?
Yes, you probably won't like me telling you this, but I've actually had to help him out of the hall on one occasion because he couldn't walk.
You get Kent Walton then to shows I've got a human tooth.
It's just like Danhausen, just a fucking collection of teeth he's got.
A man called Don Vines, a big heavyweight wrestler, was standing in the ring near my end of the ring, edge of the ring one day, and another equally big man gave him a forearm smash. His head went to the side, and 2 of his teeth came straight out by me. I found one of them. There it is, and I've kept it ever since as a souvenir.
It's too clean to be a wrestler's teeth. It's definitely too clean. And he's asked quite a lot about whether or not wrestling is rehearsed beforehand. And again, it's the wrong question because Kent Walton, these guys didn't rehearse beforehand. So Kent Walton can quite seriously go, well, it'd be very tricky to do something like that. He says, they ask the wrong questions because when they say, do they rehearse? Of course they fucking don't. You think Malcolm King Kong Kirk is going to come in and go, well, better run through this 20-minute match? No, he's having a fag. This is always said by the knockers. The only way to find out is to go in the ring, says Kent.
So a couple of wrestlers are not told before they go into the ring, you go down in round 5.
Oh.
You go down in round 2.
Do you believe that if I'm wrestling you tonight, I'm going to agree to go down in round 5, take a dive, so that you can win the bout and go on winning and get to the top of the bill quite easily before me? And therefore you'll be earning all this vast difference in money. No, I think if I've chosen this as my profession, I would want to earn as much from it as I could. And the only way I can earn is by winning and getting to the top of the bill.
And again, he's saying if I was wrestling. And all of these things are really clever where you sort of go, it's almost like they're expecting there to be a lie detector.
Yeah.
And they've got these really clever linguistic tricks.
Getting out of it, yeah.
Is wrestling fixed? If I was a wrestler, which I'm not, I would not throw a fight.
You're not really answering the question there.
He is smiling as well the whole time, Ken Walton. He's just really like, yeah, this is wonderful. I'm enjoying this mental game. They go through who Keith can face in his Albert Hall. Alan Dennison, Sid Cooper, and then they come to John Naylor. And they basically want to match Keith up with what they say is someone he won't be overawed with. They are stitching him up like a kipper. So Max Crabtree, many years later, would talk to Simon Garfield for his book, The Wrestling. And he would say that John Naylor was offered up as an opponent because the way he looked disguised the fact that he was hard as fuck. And what they realised is they just didn't want the danger of Keith Rawlinson accidentally being able to go over with someone. Naylor, it's worth pointing out, is one of the mentors from Wigan of the Dynamite Kid. So it's not like he's goodish.
I think
you know?
he'll be fine.
I think he'll be fine. What's really funny about this is they had opened up the business in terms of letting the BBC cameras in.
Yeah.
And as far as backstage and sort of, pre-show footage of British wrestling, I don't think I've seen anything that comes close to this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Max Crabtree is like, even though we're doing this, we cannot risk this not being completely controlled by us. And that control comes in the form of John Naylor. There he is. They say Keith's not a wrestler's name. Plenty of wrestlers call Keith at this time. Don't know where that's from. But he does like the surname Rawlinson. And so Max sits there going, he can't be a Ripper Rawlinson because he isn't a Ripper. Again.
More Ripper stuff.
Literally 1980. Still active. He's certainly not a roughhouse Rawlinson. He says, I'm going to call him Rip. R-I-P.
Well, as I've seen Keith and I've seen his charisma, I would think we don't want to give him a name he can't live up to. I mean, obviously he can't be Ripper Rawlinson because he isn't a Ripper, and he's certainly not a roughhouse Rawlinson. Perhaps something like, what about Rip? Something easy. R.I.P. Rip Rawlinson.
R.I.P.
I think so, yes. Something easy.
R.I.P. means other things.
Well,
I think it would just about suit him. Let's not give the boy something he can't live up to. Yeah. Rip Rawlinson. I would say Rip Rawlinson and Ripper Rawlinson aren't that different.
No.
And the RIP thing.
It sounds like you would be inflicting an RIP rather than getting an RIP.
I don't think Max Crabtree understands the RIP thing, even when he said it out loud. I just don't think he's got. I think he's been cleverer than he realises.
Rip Van Rawlinson.
Yes. They are back to see him lift 150 pounds.
Yes.
They played a trick on him. He's actually smashed it. He's done 155.
There we go.
He's gone way over the target, they mentioned. And Big Daddy is going to be topping the bill. We get our first sight of Daddy here.
He turns up, of course, Mussolini, and then disappears.
greater a lion for a day than a lamb for a lifetime. Who said that? Mussolini.
They obviously asked him, how do you get so big? And he sort of says, my grandmother was 22 stone, my mother 15 stone, and she could carry a bag of coal up 4 flights of stairs, says Daddy. So I don't have any problem putting on weight. And he recalls his first night in the business, and he says he thought about clearing off and going out for a nice walk. But then he went through with it. Just good-hearted Daddy.
What advice would you give him?
Just do your best. You can't do no more than that. And rest assured that we in the wrestling profession, if you only last 10 seconds, know that you had the courage to walk up them steps into that ring. And that does take courage.
You get the impression that he's already feeling sorry for this young lad, knowing how it's going to go. He says, you just do your best. You can't do no more than that. And know that we in the wrestling fraternity, if you only last 10 seconds, know that you had the courage to walk up them steps to the ring. And that do take courage, he says. And the 10 seconds thing would be an alarm bell for me. What do you fucking mean if I lost 10 seconds?
Bonuses have been discussed. Your pugilist.
But Keith is looking good. And by the time he gets there, he's rangy. He's learned some bits and bobs. He's doing a roll-up that's quite nice and tight and an arm drag. And I presume he knows that people are cooperating with him and that he is cooperating with them. And I just don't know what they have told him about how the match will go.
Yeah.
He mentions again and again he wants to just get to 3 rounds. And I think they've said to him, what's going to happen? Are you going to lose in 3rd round, all right? So you'll have a good old pagger. You'll have a good old fight. And then 3rd round, you're going to go down and, well done you. And then they've gone away and just gone, what if he tries to fucking double cross us? So
Rawlinson screwed Rawlinson.
This is a sort of the bit where it diverges between what I think he's being told backstage and what's going to happen in front of camera. And the two
Could
things
you not
become
just
very
played it
different.
by ear?
Of course they could have done. Of course they could have done.
Just sort of go, just so you're clear, if it starts to go right, then you can kill him.
Yeah, absolutely. Rather than just going, John, what we've decided is just flatten the bugger. Fucking have him. They put him on the poster. They show him, Rip Rawlinson is there on the big Albert Hall bill, and they've got him a right fighting man's gown. And they give him his Rip Rawlinson red, beautiful. And you do look at that, and he's smiling, and he can just go, it's happening, it's finally happening. And into the Albert Hall he goes, the 26th of March, 1980. They film him going into the dressing room. He's looking for his peg. I mean, Imagine being a sports star doing the Royal Albert Hall, and you walk in and you just go, "Have you seen me peg?" You know,
I need to bang up my things.
We've come so far. Mal Kirk is looking through the night's programme as well, flipping through. He's got his big gold watch on. He says, if I can just get through 2 or 3 rounds, I'll be happy. 2 or 3 rounds coming back. His wife and kids from the wrestling club, they turn up as well. Like Mick Foley's wife and kids at the fucking 1999 Royal Rumble. In they come. And as you say, Daddy comes over and he puts his hand on his back, and he's lovely, Daddy. And he just goes, greater a lion for a day than a lamb for a lifetime.
And he goes,
yeah, who said that? Mussolini?
Awful. An awful thing to do.
Big Daddy is caught out by the fact he knows it, and then they're just the lads together. It's
Who said that? The best bloke in the fucking world.
It's just magic.
Old African Italian Empire.
Keith is frightened by the whole thing by now.
Oh, it's people here. The wrestlers seem to be very into doing stuff.
Oh, and they're trying to make it worse for him. So Keith's in the 3rd match, and they get the first one, and they go, in the first match, this wrestler caught his head in the ropes. And he's sitting at the back just going, oh, it's my neck. It's my neck. It all went wrong. And Keith's looking over going, and they've just done it to proper shithousery. They're just rattling him. And Daddy comes over, like when you're a real daddy and you're like in France driving on a motorway and someone's driven into a load of cyclists and you're going past in the car, and Daddy just sort of, as he's looking over Keith, he just grabs him and starts like tussling him, like take his mind off it, stop him looking at it. Spragging. And then they're on. You go through all the little backstage bit with him as he comes out, and they cut to his wife looking like Princess Diana. He's never done this before. I mean, I don't know. I just can't tell whether this match has been laid out, whether he's been trained enough. Does he know what he's doing? Or is he just really like, oh, this is full on? I don't know what this is.
Don't spit on me.
He gets a lovely reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
They hear he's debuting and they are just really like, yes, another one.
Because you think that, like, if the TV show had gone out, do you know what I mean? Like, you would have to explain precisely what went on, why this man was here, Rip Rawlinson.
I wonder if they do a thing saying, it's a very special thing. You've all seen Esther Danson's The Big Time on this young lad.
You're all going to be on telly.
You're all going to be on TV.
Yeah.
Absolutely that. And he comes out and he doesn't not look like a wrestler. He doesn't look that different from John Naylor, massively. I mean, obviously there's different stuff going on in Naylor's sinews and angry blood. But yeah, Golden Ace, John Naylor taking on Rip Rawlinson. Very much in this match, you can see them taking bumps. I think a lot of people are like, he was untrained and he got attacked. It isn't quite like that. He is sort of working. But I mean, it definitely doesn't last. Naylor just sticks a leg bar on him. These proper catch-can submission moves. And Rip will not give up. A professional would have submitted by now, someone says, which is not what you want to hear. He's in these leg locks for 30 seconds as Naylor just holds him down. His wife looks sick and he is limping back to his corner when the little bell goes. His leg is terrible and he can't really walk on it. And Naylor keeps going for it. Naylor in round 2 gets him in a head scissors and he twists his arms behind him really horribly. There is a point where he just kicks him in the face and down goes Keith. Naylor then gets him into a single leg Boston Crab, which is seen through the series like it's one of Keith's real weak points. And Keith finally submits. That's the first one that I think he submits in. And so you've got one more round. In round 3, Naylor just goes for his leg again. He's going straight for it. He gets a face lock on him. And Keith, he doesn't go for the ropes when he's stuck in this. And the referee actually puts Keith's hand on the ropes to break it.
Yeah.
And again, I was just a bit like, just go, he submitted. Ring the fucking bell.
He's had his time.
Don't do this. Keith begins fighting back. He doesn't want to go quietly. And I think he's beginning to go, okay, this isn't like it's just rough. This is, I'm being attacked. And I need to do something now because this is not going fun. The crowd really reacts every time he gets out. And when he goes for a full Nelson on, which again is a move that they've all said, oh, that's unbreakable. And you get it on and you go, oh, it's useless. It's really weak. At the end of round 3, after all this sort of punishment to his leg, they ask him if he's okay and he goes, no. His leg is done and he isn't going to come out for round 4.
What do you reckon? Are you okay?
No.
Yes, it's up to you. If it ain't any good... Come on, try standing up. Try it once again. Don't move your leg out of the way. Move your leg out of the way. Have you? Are you sure? No, it's no good.
Round 4, Keith is still in his corner. It's all over for Rip Rawlinson.
It's a funny one. that. I mean, British wrestling did do what they wanted to do, which is they wanted to say, this is not for your average man.
Yeah.
What they also did was they clearly fucked over a huge fan who seemed to be quite an asset to what they were doing, and if they'd have worked with, could have possibly helped them even more.
Yeah.
I loved the way this all panned out. I loved the way it panned out. A wonderful shithousery as well, which is Tally Ho Kay coming up to him at the end and going, are you okay? When he's on the table and he says,
You did this.
He says, you forgot everything. He said, he went in there and tried. A lot of them won't try, but he forgot everything. And it's truly like, I think he remembered everything you told him. I just think there were lots of gaps in what in what we were doing. Max Crabtree does end it by saying, well, he showed bottle. And Keith said, my wildest dream was to last 2 or 3 rounds. And in that sense, my dream did come true. As it lasted 2 or 3 rounds. Don't quite know. So what did happen to him afterwards? He was on the front of the Sun the day after the show went out.
Right.
And they absolutely treat it like the show does. There's no sense of going, he came out and said it was all fairies and, glitter. He said he'd been advised to see a doctor after the match. Back in Burnley, he was examined in hospital and told that he had an injury that would need surgery if it didn't clear up. Keith wouldn't say what the trouble was, except that it was internal. In the direct aftermath of the show, he then did a lot of stuff with his local paper, who were very proud of him. They printed lots of photographs of him in the classroom with the kids. He talked about his
internal injuries.
He talked about the excitement and disappointment now that the programme was over. One of the heartbreaking things is that someone stole his scarlet satin gown, which was to be a lifelong memory of the stardom and suffering emblazoned with Rip Rawlinson on the back.
Who steals that?
I mean,
Worthless.
it's worthless. But also, I look at it and I go, think it's probably one of the top 3 gowns I'd like to own.
Ric Flair,
Rip Rawlinson, and anything worn by Jim Breaks. Speaking of the actual show, Keith said he got more enjoyment out of it than he expected, despite his rough treatment in the ring. Keith is still in training and hopes to become a wrestler. In the meantime, he's become famous locally as Burnley's latest TV star. He does become a wrestler.
Right.
Do you know which wrestler?
Oh, I don't know. Who?
Abdullah the Butcher. No, he doesn't. He doesn't become a wrestler. It's
Asker.
But what a show, eh? What a thrilling show.
He's just going to have bad dreams about Johnny Saint.
They've stuck him in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to send that clip to Meltzer and say, get him out. Get him out.
He's clearly horrible.
We didn't even get Benoit out. Get Saint out. Get Saint out while you still can. Because Meltzer is coming for you, mate. He's coming for us all. Some of the other episodes had things like a housewife who was a musician. She got to conduct an orchestra at the Fairfield Halls in Croydon.
It's like a grown-up Jim Fix, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But longer and harder work.
It is, yeah. You had a housewife became a TV presenter. Again, that doesn't seem like an impossible dream. If you've ever watched Loose Women. A model entering the Miss United Kingdom beauty contest. Again, that's
de rigueur for a model, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. A young gymnast who became a circus trapeze artist, and an amateur singer who had the chance to record a single. That is probably the most famous episode of The Big Time, because that Scottish singer that they chose would later become Sheena Easton. So she had a little pre-Prince career as a result of the show. It's also really famous. There was one episode where a farmer's wife from Devon, she became head chef for the day at the Dorchester Hotel and had to prepare a banquet for the then Prime Minister Edward Heath.
I think that would be a bad day for Edward Heath.
Yeah,
it just sounds like there's a lot to think about.
Well,
in such a busy kitchen.
Her name,
and it's not just about cooking.
Yeah, this is actually very much a lot of formats that we have nowadays. So her name was Glen Troke, and she was from Devon. She had a menu that she put together. And I'm not sure. I think she had cooked it for them, right. And it was a seafood cocktail, duckling with bramble sauce, and a coffee cream dessert. That was what she put together. Fanny Craddock, when she had the menu, began pretend to retch. She began, she said, I don't know what a bramble is. She said,
don't know what a bramble is?
In bramble sauce. She told Troke the menu was too rich, and she said, yes, the dessert is delicious, but it's not suitable for the Prime Minister Edward Heath. She said, yes, dear, you're among professionals now. She told Gwen Cloak.
Come on.
She instead said that Gwen Troke should swap her coffee cream dessert instead for a small pastry boat filled with fruit sorbet and covered with spun sugar, decorated with an orange slice and a cherry through a cocktail stick, which gave the dish the look of a small boat. And Fanny believed that would be more acceptable for the guests.
Yeah.
In the event that it was a total disaster, the dessert, it couldn't be served. It all collapsed in the heat of the kitchen. And the fellow judge, Robert Morley, had said that, in fact, he had tried the original coffee pudding. It was perfect.
Fanny.
There was a huge backlash towards Fanny Craddock as a result of this one appearance. And the Daily Telegraph wrote, not since 1940 can the people of England have risen in such unified wrath. Fanny Craddock had to write a letter of apology to Gwen Troke, but it was too late, and the BBC had terminated her contract 2 weeks after this show went out.
But she was there to be the Simon Cowell kind of nasty.
She was, and the world was not ready for it.
Right.
Fanny Craddock never presented another show after that. Having been a dick, as presumably she was asked to be. She is one of those people that you do look back and just go, even in like the 50s or whenever she was given her first sort of job, whoever decided to put her on TV was fucking nuts.
Can't even blame on Cork.
There's a witch with an alcohol problem. Get her on telly.
Not a terrible idea.